Welcome back to The Explainer. So glad you're joining us. Look, if you're a Canadian small business owner, a sole proprietor, or maybe a tradesperson, you already know exactly how it feels when things just start to get stuck, right? You put processes in place, and for a while, everything runs perfectly, smooth sailing. But then, as you grow and add a little more complexity, those once smooth operations start causing serious friction. You find yourself repeating instructions, missing follow ups, or constantly having to jump in and save the day. It is incredibly frustrating, but I want to normalize this right out of the gate. This is a completely natural part of growing your business. So today, we're diving into the Built to Thrive framework to figure out exactly how to know when a workflow needs a tune-up.
Okay, let's set the stage really quick. We're looking at the operations and systems domain, moving down the review your systems path and landing right in the maturity layer. What this means is we aren't building a system from scratch today, we're just giving an existing one a much needed tune-up.
Think of a workflow kind of like a custom-built shelf. You put it up, and it holds exactly what you needed on day one. It was perfect for that stage of your business. But as you grow, as you add more customers, bring on new tools, maybe hire staff, that shelf suddenly becomes rigid. Eventually, things start falling off. And here's the thing, if you're feeling overwhelmed, it doesn't mean you're disorganized, not at all. Your workflow has simply become too small, too rigid for the dynamic, growing business you're actually running today.
Just a quick reminder on how the framework operates. It has 3 layers. 1, awareness. That's where you notice the issue. 2, practice, where you apply a tool to fix it. And 3, maturity, where you strengthen the system. Since this explainer is specifically a maturity guide, our goal today is strictly to strengthen a workflow that's already in motion. We are absolutely not building some massive corporate operating manual from the ground up.
So, anchored firmly in operations and systems, this domain is really all about how work actually gets done. It's about how a task moves from that very first customer request all the way to a finished invoice job. We're looking at the messy, practical reality of how work moves through your business on a daily basis.
So, how do we figure out if a system is actually still working? Well, the framework suggests shifting completely away from heavy corporate process consulting and just asking one incredibly simple, practical question. Does this workflow still fit? It really forces you to look at the routine as it operates right now, today, not how it operated 2 years ago.
All right, let's get into the steps. Step 1 is honestly a huge relief. Start with a workflow that already exists. The framework strongly warns against trying to review your entire business all at once. Seriously, don't do it. That is a fast track to instant burnout. Instead, pick just one routine, even an informal one, like how do you handle an intake call, or how do you process a final invoice? Just pick one and start there. Moving to step 2, we're looking for signs that this workflow is no longer working cleanly. Are you seeing constant delays? Are follow-ups falling through the cracks just because they rely entirely on your memory? Do you constantly have to intervene to keep things moving? Maybe customers keep calling you for updates. Or, hey, maybe you have this massive 10-point checklist that absolutely no one on your team actually uses anymore. These are all flashing red lights telling you that your custom-built shelf is overflowing. Step 3. So, the crucial point here is finding exactly where the workflow breaks, because you usually don't need to throw out the whole process. You just need to find the specific bottleneck. Ask yourself, where does the work slow down? Where does the information go missing? At what exact point does the follow-up start depending entirely on your memory, forcing you to step in and save the day? You want to isolate that exact breaking point. Once you find that breaking point, we roll right into step 4. Decide whether the workflow needs clarity, rhythm, or reduction. You're basically just matching the symptom with a practical cure. For example, if the issue is unclear steps, well, you need a clearer workflow. If the issue is missed details, you probably just need a simple checklist. Forgotten follow-ups? You don't need a massive software overhaul for that. You just need a weekly review rhythm. And if the problem is that there are simply way too many steps, then you need reduction and simplification. Step 5 is to check whether it still fits the actual size of your business today. Workflows can become too weak, where they just don't capture enough detail for your current volume, or they can become way too heavy, bloated with extra steps you literally no longer need. The system has to fit the business as it is right now, not the business you were 3 years ago, and definitely not the business you might be 3 from now. All right, let's move to step 6, which is taking action. The key here is the one thing rule. Make just one practical improvement. Just one. That might mean adding a follow-up date, starting a weekly review, setting a really simple file naming rule, or even just shortening a checklist. Choose one useful change to test. We want to keep the solution highly actionable and distinctly non-corporate. Small tweaks reduce friction. Massive overhauls just create stress. Step 7. Test the updated workflow. Take that one practical improvement and actually use it in your real day-to-day work. Then evaluate it. Did the work move more clearly this time? Was the follow-up easier? Did you, as the owner, have to remember less? And maybe most importantly, was the change simple enough that you will actually keep using it? Okay, I really want you to hear this next takeaway. You do not need to redesign the business. You need to adjust the workflow that no longer fits. I really hope you feel relieved by this. You've built something great. When things feel difficult, it isn't a sign that your business is broken. It is simply a signal that a specific routine needs a tune-up. You are totally empowered to make that small adjustment without tearing down the whole house. So let's quickly recap what a win looks like for you today. This is what good enough looks like. You can identify just one workflow that needs review. You've pinpointed exactly where it's starting to break. You determined the core issue, whether that's clarity, missing details, or too much complexity. You chose one single practical improvement to test. And finally, you ensured that the updated workflow is actually simple enough to keep using. If you can do that, you have successfully matured your system. If you want to put this into practice right away, you can grab the Workflow Review Checklist. It's a paid tool available in the Operations and Systems Maturity Toolkit, and it will walk you right through everything we just covered. Look, fixing this friction isn't just about making your day easier. It is the exact preparation you need to successfully hand off work. In fact, our next guide on this path is exactly that: prepare work for delegation. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Before we go, I want to leave you with this final thought. If you could fix just one bottleneck today that would win you back a full hour of your time tomorrow, which workflow would you choose?